Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, this time an ultra quick review, but also some sample photos on the compact super zoom, the Sony WX500. So this is a camera that can be had for under $300, so it's certainly affordable for people that want to go on a trip. It has like an RX100 body style, although it is not an RX100. It has a much smaller sensor, so it's very small, very compact, very nice in the hand, a little slippery. It has some nice features like a selfie screen that you could also use to tip in other directions. You can see me in there. See, where am I? Where am I? There I am. Yeah, hello me. It also has a flash that you can bounce a bit, which is nice. But its big selling features are it's inexpensive. It has a zoom range that goes from 24 millimeters all the way up to over 700 millimeters. So you have this tremendous zoom range, which would be great if you're traveling someplace. It has an over 900,000 dot display on the back, so the display is nice and clear. There's no EVF and not a lot of sophisticated features, no RAW or anything like that. This is strictly a consumer level camera. And the reason I decided to do this review is that I took it out yesterday in some practical real world situations. So I was going on a bike ride. For me, it was a long bike ride. It was 26 miles. That's very long for an old guy like me. And I wanted to bring along a camera that I could have at the ready. And actually, I held this camera through the entire bike ride so I could take shots because I'm riding with my wife. She doesn't want to stop every 30 seconds. And it has to be easy and convenient. I also didn't want something that was expensive. I certainly didn't want to carry around a big DSLR, and so I used this camera. And I'll show you some images from this. That's why I'm doing this whole video. And then in the evening, I had to go to a band competition for my son. And that really tested out some of the zoom capabilities of this camera and in less than ideal light circumstances. And of course there's compromise because this is a small sensor, but really for most of us it's going to be just fine. So let me go to some of those images and I'll show you what I saw, and you'll see if this camera might be right for you if you're looking for an inexpensive super zoom travel camera. So here we are. So I put my glasses back on. I took them off so I wouldn't glare in on the webcam. So here is just a shot. These are some low light shots. This is ISO of 800, and we are at an equivalent of, where is my equivalency, of 127 millimeters using it compared to 35 millimeters. So we're zoomed out, and really see a reasonably good image actually at 1/15 of a second. This is all handheld. If we go here, we're now zoomed to 90 millimeters, and this is at 1/25 of a second handheld, ISO 800. Not too bad really when you think about the fact that this is just a little small sensor camera. And I'm way up in the bleachers, and I was able to get this nice shot on this very tiny camera that I held and just brought in my pocket. The guy next to me, he had a Nikon D70-100. He had a giant 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and I'm sure he got much better shots, but this is all I needed for Facebook. If we go here, we're now at a zoom of 206 millimeters. You could definitely see some smearing in the processing, but perfectly acceptable for what I would use this for. And this was at 1/13 of a second, again handheld, ISO 800. So let's move on to our bike trip. So here's a shot at 1/200th of a second. We are at an ISO of 80, and it looks really very nice. Now I did touch these photos up in a photo editor. I still use aperture, so I kind of increase things like the vibrancy a bit because I just like vibrant colors. So I'm telling you that, but really very nice picture for what we're talking about from this little camera. Here I am with my lovely wife, and this was an ISO of 80, and you can see nice and clear, reasonably good dynamic range. Here I am with my bicycle, my trusty bicycle, ISO of 80 again, and 1/1000th of a second image. Very clear, very nice. I'd say certainly a step above most cell phones. Here I'm taking the bikes off, or in this case I think I'm putting a bike on the bike rack. ISO of, this was 1/800th of a second, ISO of 80, f3.5. Again, nice, clear, sharp, good image. This is the advantage. You have this little tiny camera, and you stop for a second. You can take pictures. This is shutter speed of 1250, so 1250, ISO 80. No complaints. Here we're in this on this Illinois and Michigan Canal bike route, and it's really cool if you're ever in the Chicago area. It starts out in Joliet in an abandoned ironworks, and so you have this kind of post-apocalyptic sort of thing, and then you travel through these other towns where you see all these refineries, and then you're in these other towns that are just kind of prosaic looking, and it's really cool. So here we are riding along, and you see some remnant of an old building. This is an old, I don't know what it is. It's like an old little town sort of recreation along the way. This is a shutter speed of 640 and an ISO of 80 again. Again, good dynamic range. You see the nice blue in the sky, very clear, very sharp. Now this is an interesting shot. This is actually at a shutter speed of 1/800th of a second. I literally was holding the camera in my hand. It was in the automatic gold mode. I pointed it towards the bicyclists on this bike path, and I just pressed the shutter down. So I didn't even look at what I was shooting, but the camera figured it all out and took this interesting, nice shot. You have a lot of great ability in this camera, and because it has slightly better dynamic range than I think a lot of these tiny little sensor cameras have, you can get some nice looking black and white images. And because this is such an interesting path with this contrast of all these different places that you're going through, you get a lot of industrial versus country stuff, and so I took a bunch of shots like that. This is at an ISO of 80, again, as most of these are going to be. It's at a shutter speed of 1/400th of a second, f5.6, and we are at just 24 millimeters, so we're wide open here. Another shot, this is that industrial complex. There's signs everywhere that say things like danger, do not venture into the area because of contamination. This is a 1/640th of a second stationary. I stopped the bike for this one. More kind of post-apocalyptic stuff, very cool. This is actually a factory that I think is still in operation. Looks like it could fall down at any minute. And here we move to some of these bridges. They have these great railroad trestles that have been converted as part of this bike path, because of course the bike path is an old railroad line. And you have these kind of rusted out bridges that are just kind of awesome looking. Again, this contrast of prosaic versus industrial. Here's one of the refineries along the way. Just looks kind of nice and clear and really sharp for a little tiny sensor camera. Here's another one of those trestles that's converted into the bike path trail with a jogger on it. Very cool, kind of rusted out. Really liked it. More industry. When I see these images, it always kind of gives me some sort of like a science fiction sort of thing, like what's going on in there. Of course, they're refining petroleum products, but it's pretty creepy looking. And there you have it. So let me get out of here. And we're back on our screen. Let me center that a little bit and get my glasses off so I'm not glaring at you again. And so the bottom line is that this is an inexpensive camera that obviously is not going to perform like a larger sensor camera, but what it offers you is this huge zoom range in a very compact, very lightweight form factor. I found the battery life was fine. It lasted throughout the photo shoot when I was on the bike path. It lasted for the shots of the band, and it was pretty cold, like in the 50s, so worked okay. I think the construction is good, a little bit slippery, but that's what all of these cameras are kind of like that. I don't know if you can get a grip for this or not. Probably not. And many of these shots were just done automatically. So if you're looking for an inexpensive travel camera that's going to offer reasonably good performance, I think in bright light it offers very nice pictures. In low light you do get that smearing and that processing effect from the little processor to cope with that smaller sensor, but absolutely fine unless you're doing really important work. I would recommend this camera. Hope you like this video, and if you get some time, listen to my podcast. It's called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. It now features both me and my wife. I'm a psychiatrist, she's a psychologist, so you can see us battle over topics. And I'm also doing an experimental blog now. It's actually, you can find it under drmikekuna.com or drmichaelkuna.com. That's drmikekuna.com, or put Michael in there. And this is a writing experiment. So I'm trying to develop some of my writing skills and develop a writing style, and I'm trying to be more honest in my writing about feelings and things like that. So this is purely an experiment. If you want to get into my head, you can go there and see that. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.